Oh no, baby Steve. Oh no, kimchi papi too. Oh no, baby Steve, is heißt die nun? Wie heißt der Mann? Kijk hoe mami het ogen doet in blue. Wow, it is Donald Trump?
Yeah.
And baby Steve?
Melania.
No kidding. No kidding. The Trump fan, you know, he looks more like a Trump than she like Lamania. He looks like a real Trump. Look at this, sir. We got Melania and Donald here. Draai de gerem zo hello for them, mister. Zo hello for the doggy. That's right. That's a good one, right? Oh no.
Look at that. Look at that. Look at that. Hasidic Jews coming out for Purim dressing as Donald and Melania. Whoever would have thought they'd see the day? Whoever thought they'd see the day? Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Fire Program. I'm your host, Joe Neerman, a.k.a. Good Lawgic. Man, it's been a minute. I was like, how do I do this again? Wait, where's my script? There's no script here. This is all just free. This is just free thought meanderance. I feel like so, it's chilly in here. I, thank God, had a phenomenal weekend. Phenomenal weekend. It started, as most of you know, with the holiday of Purim, where I got pretty drunk there. I got pretty drunk on a new alcohol like Talaburin or something like that. I couldn't believe how smooth it was. I'll dig it up. I have it somewhere here. I'll dig it up. Well, yeah, so that was something. And yeah, and then I spent basically all day yesterday working on finalizing everything for a surprise party that I made for Lady Lawgic, which I gotta tell you, it went off really well, like really well. Thank God. It went. She was really surprised, which was crazy. Well, anyway, but so much happened in the world. I spent all day today on social media, and while I was like in these different chats and stuff, I was like, wait, that happened also? Wait, that happened also? Oh my God! What do we got? We got Biden's pen being declared nicht git, as the Hasidic Jews would say. Nicht git, no good. Yeah, no. So he says that Trump was put out a tweet or a truth, which was shared all over social media, saying that the pardons are ineffective. They don't work. They're not anything. They're not anything. Which I have a lot to say about that. Then we also have the Democrats burying Chuck Schumer in ways that I gotta tell you, I think his political career might be in trouble. And it's a significant development in a lot of ways. Some good, some potentially disastrous. Some good, some potentially disastrous. So we'll talk about that. And finally, I've got this story with I want to break down the whole legal perspective of Trump declaring an alien invasion and invoking a 200-year-old law. And whether or not that works, does it work? Is it moral? Is it ethical? Is it good? So those are the topics I plan on covering tonight for y'all. So buckle up, get cozy, or if not buckle up, I guess, tuck into your whatever, your comforter, get back there and come back to the dulcet tones of Good Logic. There you go. We've got our constitutional crisis now with the D.C. judge invading president's foreign affairs powers. I plan on spending some time breaking down the papers that were submitted by Trump. They're not very long, but the government put in papers on that. And I plan on definitely addressing that because some of the stuff they make there, some of the arguments they make there are pretty blunt about the limitations of the judicial branch. So we'll definitely gonna be talking about that. Anyway, appreciate you calling that to my attention. Let's get it all started. Let's get it all started and talk about the pen. Let's talk about the pen. This is the Truth Social post that Trump put out, which is an interesting, from a legal perspective, it's an interesting post. The pardons that Sleepy Joe gave to the unselect committee of political thugs and many others are hereby declared void, vacant, no further force or effect because of the fact that they were done by Autopen. Autopen is a way that you pick up a pen and it automatically would sign his signature for him. In other words, Joe Biden did not sign them, but more importantly, he did not know anything about them. The necessary pardoning documents were not explained to or approved by Biden. He knew nothing about them. The people that did may have committed a crime. Therefore, those on the unselect committee who destroyed and deleted all evidence obtained during their 2-year witch hunt of me and many other innocent people should fully understand that they are subject to investigation at the highest level. The fact is, they were probably responsible for the documents that were signed on their behalf without the knowledge of or consent of the worst president in the history of our country, crooked Joe Biden. So there you go. It's an unusual display of pulling punches. Trump goes easy here on Joe Biden and Democrats and says that they are declared invalid. Now, let's spend a moment breaking this down for a second. So when he writes up here, hereby declared void, vacant, and of no further force or effect, that does nothing. That does nothing. That's like if he said, I hereby declare you and the dude who lives next door to you legally married. It doesn't do anything. This does nothing. Him writing that does nothing. No one should think that, oh, well, there you go. He made them. He just ripped them up. And you might think, I mean, it's not a crazy thought to have that, hey, if in fact a president can sign off on a pardon, perhaps another president could undo a pardon. There's nothing in our Constitution which seems to give that power to undo a veto. Not a veto, a pardon. Is that nowhere in the Constitution does it say that the president has a power to undo some other president's pardon? And I've talked on this show before about my legal questions with respect to the validity of the pardons that were issued by Joe Biden. And I think that they are manifold. There are a great many. That beeping's going to make me crazy. This is Discord. This is why. It's going to make me crazy. Do you guys hear the beeping? Do you hear the beeping? Do you hear that? Do you hear it? Do you hear it? It's making me crazy. That is Discord, right? Oh my God, that's annoying. Yeah, that cannot be. That can't. We can't have that. Is that Discord? And yeah, by the way, I agree with you. You told me to mute my Discord. Is that? Good golly. This is why I hate Discord. All right, I'm on it. I'll pull up Discord. Stupid. How do I mute this crap? This is why I hate Discord. Oh, God. Mute. This is muted. I have to get rid of this damn thing. I hate it. I'm just going to delete Discord. Now I don't hear it beeping. How'd that go away? All right. I want to just do my show. I want them to leave me alone. All right. I don't know what that was. It was hard to fall asleep last night. Bronco's not as good at falling asleep listening to. Yeah, well, I'm sorry. I was doing that party. The party ran for like 3 hours or so, and yeah, I was exhausted, and I literally spent all day just putting together a video for her. I actually have up on the thing that it's an interesting story. What happened with that party and how I managed to actually, how I had to bluff her into being surprised. And oh my God, it's still doing it. User settings. God. Off. I think I got it. Is this it? Did I do it? Did I do it right? I just clicked this button here. Did I do it right? I did it right, right? I did it right. We're good, right? I don't hear anything. Okay, that's good. All right. I appreciate the compliment. Thank you. Little lawsuits against Trump admin. Do we bring back Trump Trials channel? Maybe we'll see. That's an interesting thought. So I don't know if it just hurt in my head. Okay. This is like a drip. It literally sounds like a drip. It's not a smoke detector. It's in my. I hear it in my ears. I wouldn't hear that in my ears. God. I try to exit it out. I don't know. We'll see what happens. Shut up. Just shut up. I tried. It was closed before. It was closed. I'm totally breaking the intro. I did exit the program. God. You sent me a DM on how to silence it. All right, let me check that. Insanity. I can't spend the next 2 hours listening to that idiocy. What craziness. Click your name in the bottom left corner under edit profile. Set to do not disturb on notifications. All right, I'll try that. Click my name. Click my name. Zero notifications. User settings. Yeah. I think I got it. I think I got it. Oh my God. Aaron, go brah. My hubby, Mr. T, planted potatoes today. Go you. I think I got it. All right, I think I got it. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Apocalypse. That was very helpful. I really think I got it now. Where the hell was I? Okay, so I was talking to you in the past. When this issue came up, I told you all that I have big issues with these pardons. The problems with the pardons are manifold. First and foremost, if we look at his pardon power under the Constitution, and I was arguing with all these right-leaning accounts about this. I was like, I don't think he has the power to pardon activity without pardoning specific crimes. Now, if in fact someone was convicted and they are, first you can start with this basic question: can he pardon someone before they're charged? To me, the answer to that is yes, you can. But you need to break down what you're pardoning them for. And if we look at the language of the pardon power, when we pull it up here, it says specifically that president shall be the commander-in-chief of the army, blah, blah, blah. This is spelling out the presidential powers under Article 2. And it says, and he shall have the power to grant reprieves and pardons for offenses against the United States. To me, he has to know what he's pardoning. What offenses? He can't just say any offense. Because this is, and people love to say, and this is one of the things I was arguing on a space today with Insurrection Barbie about this. She's like, no, the pardon power is plenary. And I said, plenary is a nice word, but it doesn't say that anywhere in here. Plenary implies is absolute, right? Definition of plenary is absolute. Okay. And we describe it colloquially as being plenary, that he can pardon any crime, any federal crime, and that's true. He definitely can pardon any federal crime. That's implicit in here, and it's been used that way by every president that in living memory certainly has pardoned people for any crime. That's fine. But you have to say what the crime is, not all conduct associated with what you did during this period of time while working on this thing. Because the whole point is that's pardoning a person to do it that way. And he's only allowed to pardon a crime. You cannot pardon a person, you can only pardon a crime. It doesn't say here shall have the power to pardon any individual. It says he has a power to pardon, grant reprieves and pardons for offenses, meaning for the crime. Pardon for a crime. That means you have to know what the crime is, and it's logical to read it that way. It's far more logical to read it that way. The reason it's far more logical to read it that way is because if we look at where a pardon comes from, the notion of a pardon comes back from ancient England, where the king had a power to pardon people. But the idea is that he's pardoning for something that he knows about. Imagine this. Let me ask you, let's think about this for a second. Let's say some subject of the king or citizen of the United States dupes them into giving him a pardon, right? Lies to him about, he says, hey, I broke into an office and stole some stuff, but I really want you to pardon me for everything I did in that office. And he's like, oh, okay, fine, I pardon you. I'm going to pardon him for, I'm going to pardon you for this, for everything you did in that office. Because I don't know, maybe you did this, maybe you stole, maybe you damaged some stuff that's not stealing. I don't want you to get convicted of that, so I'll pardon you for that. So I'm going to say, he'll write, I'll pardon him for everything he did in the office that day. And then he comes and finds out that, oh, that's also where he murdered 47 people. See, I think most of us would agree that he's been deceived into giving this pardon. He thinks the crime is ABC, but he gave him a pardon, but he didn't mean to pardon him for murder. He had no idea he's pardoning him for murder. To me, it doesn't make sense to say that once it comes out of his mouth now that it's been pardoned, that now everything that's now pardoned. It's illogical that he wouldn't know what's been committed and say, I pardon you for that. And if he's deceived into it, if he's tricked into it, okay? Let's say he reads a story saying that his next door neighbor, which says his next door neighbor, Joe Smith, committed a crime. And he says, I pardon Joe Smith for this crime. And it turns out it's not his next door neighbor, Joe Smith. It's another guy he never met before. Would anyone think, oh yeah, that's and he comes back, he's like, oh, I was pardoning a different Joe Smith, not this one. So he basically was tricked into it. The facts that are underlying the entire circumstance that led to the pardon were deceitful. And he was purposefully tricked into it, let's just say his chief of staff knows the other Joe Smith and he wants him pardoned. Would anyone say, oh, well, he wrote it, he's pardoned now? No, I think any logical take on it is like he wasn't even pardoning that guy for this crime. He didn't know he didn't know who he's pardoning, he didn't know what he's doing. I think that when you don't know what it is that you're pardoning, everyone would say that's not a valid pardon. So so fraud has to be a possibility in a pardon. This is going to be a little complex what I'm about to explain to you. If fraud is not a possibility in the pardon, then I don't think it's a valid pardon. In order to be a valid pardon, it has to be capable of there being a fraud. This is a complicated argument I'm making. I know it's a very complicated argument. Some of you get it. Probably most of you probably won't. But if we now look at a pardon as something that can potentially, someone could be deceived into it. If it's something that you can't be deceived into it because you just had no idea what you're pardoning. He pardons Dr. Fauci for everything related to his work in the medical community for the last 10 years. Oh, that's really nice. Then he later finds out that part of that whole experiment was that he infected 10,000 people with poison and he thought he had an antidote, and that antidote really only worked on 4 people. So, but I'm pardoned. Joe Biden would be like, I had no idea I'm pardoning him for that. I didn't know anything about that. I thought the worst I heard about was the sick thing with the beagles. I didn't know I'm pardoning him for murder. That's crazy. So to me, it just doesn't make any sense to say, if you want to tell me that he has the power to do something, fine. But his power has to be rooted in his knowledge that something was done. How can his power of I am forgiving you go to something that he has no idea that the crime was committed? And that's why to cover a blanket pardon to me makes no sense. Some people will argue, well, that's Gerald Ford gave Nixon one. And I don't think that was a valid pardon either. I don't think that Nixon had a valid pardon. It just worked. It worked in the sense that he was never prosecuted. But that doesn't mean that if he went to court, a court would be like, oh yeah, that's totally effective. You can't prosecute him. He's got this valid pardon here. I think if it had been tested, if some prosecutor had enough gumption to say, I'm going after him and prosecute him, then we would know. Does a blanket pardon work? And until some member of the DOJ has that gumption, until that happens, we will never know if the pardon power, a blanket pardon, works. And what I love about this Truth Social post is this tells me that he's sicking the DOJ on Pam Bondi on these individuals who got these blanket pardons. And the very first question that I'm sure will come up is a blanket pardon effective? And that's a great help to Trump personally, because when he finishes his term, he's going to want to know, can I give a blanket pardon to someone? Will that work? Can I give a blanket pardon to Donald Trump Jr.? Can I give one to myself? Can I give one to people who are nice to me? Will that work? And it's much better if you're doing something, you don't know if it's legally valid. It's much better to do it after you see it worked. And would you rather have it tested against your kid, who you just gave it to, or Joe Biden's kid, Hunter? Now, frankly, I think the Hunter Biden pardon is probably a little bit stronger. But would you rather have it tested on with President Donald Trump? Would he prefer to have the validity of a blanket pardon tested in some criminal charge that's brought against his son Don Jr. 6 years from now, and then he'll first find out at that point, oh, is this legally work or not? Or would he rather find that out against Adam Schiff and Liz Cheney? To me, I think he's an idiot if he doesn't have his DOJ go challenge it, because he knows better than any human on earth that the DOJ gets weaponized and that his family are political prisoners of the judicial system if he's not in power, and power is being held by the left. You know that's going to happen. You're an idiot if you don't give them the pardon. Why not find out whether that pardon works or not? And if you're not sure if that pardon works, or maybe the court, here's another likely possibility. The court will come out and say it's not good because he didn't do it like this, or it's only good because he did it like that. The court will give him instruction into what he needs to do for 3.5 years from now. So I think that he's way too smart to not prosecute. I think he's a smart guy, and I think he's going to prosecute. And the massive upside of that is that he will learn what powers he has with respect to pardoning his own family 3.5 years from now. Now, that being said, we have this other issue, the one he's specifically addressing with respect to the validity of a Autopen. So an Autopen, I don't even know how it works. I have no idea how it works. Let's pretend it's the same thing as a rubber stamp. So someone else picked up his stamp and stamps it down. There's legal precedent to say that that's totally fine. You do not have to be the one stamping it. Joe Biden does not need to be the one who actually stamps the signature. You can have someone else stamp it for him. Joe Biden would not need to be in the office when it's being stamped. All you need from Joe Biden, because this is a representation of what the will of the president is. All you need to know is that he knew it was happening and he consented to it. Then you have a valid signature. And it's reflected in this Autopen thing. And if you do it that way, what you really should do, if you're intelligent and you know someone may be questioning this at some point in time, this thing is going to have to be binding at some point for someone, is you actually would record something showing that you consented to it. But Trump has admitted to using the Autopen himself, which makes sense. And I don't even know what this means. I don't know what this means. Okay. The point is that you definitely the capacity. Trump has the capacity to use an Autopen. No question about it. Absolutely no question. And every president has used it. Trump has used it. That's not a problem. You don't need to be in the room. You don't need to be in the building. You don't need to be in the city. You don't need to be in the country. He could literally be in Estonia, get on the phone and say, I want you to sign my signature on that. And that's representing the will of the president. And I don't think there's any problem with that. And I'm fairly certain there's legal precedence in that fact. So that's not the issue. The issue is whether or not he understood what was happening. Because there's two reasons he would not understand what happened. And these two reasons are very distinct. One is an argument that we all saw that old man, and he doesn't know. The dude literally doesn't know what color shirt he's wearing. So you'd be like, his cognitive deficiency incapacitated him from having the capability of knowing that there was a pardon going on. I think that is the weakest argument imaginable. Despite all the evidence, and do I think he had the mental acuity necessary to be president of the United States? Hell no. Hell to the no. I don't think he did. But I'm not his doctor. You're not his doctor. And despite all the videos that we have of him flubbing and looking confused and Robert Hur testifying that he's out of his mind, he has a doctor who is seeing him regularly and said over and over and over again, perfectly fine cognitive abilities. So maybe he has some moments that he dims out. But that's what he has. And now if you're going to try the burden of proof, picture how this whole thing goes down. Let's just walk through the scenario here. Okay, so Pam Bondi brings charges against Anthony Fauci saying, I think that you're a monster who tortures beagles and I'm throwing you in prison. P.S. You killed 3 million people with your stupid disease. Now, and prosecute someone that. He comes in there and says, I have a pardon over here. I got a pardon over here. It says over here. Pam Bondi comes back and says, no, that pardon is no good because, you see, the man who signed it or had an Autopen signed for him, he was a vegetable. So he was too incapacitated to sign it. So now, court says, well, he's showing me this document. You're telling me he's a vegetable. What's your proof he was a vegetable? Oh, you want proof? Oh, I got tons of proof. Tons of proof. You want another proof? Here you go. Here's a video of him falling down the stairs. Here's a video of his last debate of his career against Donald Trump. Where Trump's like, I don't even know what the hell the guy just said. And here's him flubbing. Here's him telling Mike Johnson that I don't know anything about some bill I supposedly signed. That sounds fairly compelling. But do you know that this document, he never spoke to anyone about it? Do you know that he didn't understand what this was? Do you know that? Because this looks to be okay. It was never medically adjudicated to being cognitively deficient. And the burden of proof is going to be on you, Pam Bondi, to establish that this document that purports and looks to be a valid pardon, if we set aside the whole blanket pardon issue. Assuming the blanket pardon issue, I'm wrong on the law on that. And the court disagrees with me on that. Now we're coming to this cognitive state issue. So this looks to be a valid pardon. If you want to invalidate it, show me how you can prove that on the day he signed this and the moment he signed this, he did not have sufficient cognitive abilities. I think that you're going to really, really struggle with that. Because old people are known to drift in, drift out, drift in, drift out, drift in, drift out. The moments he drift out, those are all viral moments. The moments he's drifting in, there are moments where he's screaming and he seems to be making sense for like 14 seconds. So until you can establish that this signature happening here was not when at a moment when he had clarity, this is a valid pardon. Now, there's a different argument that has been presented, which I think is potentially stronger. And this is a possibility. This is a real possibility. Because most of us feel as fairly confident that the presidency was being run by a circle of people, and they probably didn't even bother telling Biden what they were doing half the time. So, let's say they never even told Biden that they're signing all of these pardons. They just started, Autopen, thousands of times. And now he's not even in the loop. He has no idea. He thought he pardoned 4 people his entire life, and turns out he pardoned 7,000. Let's say that's what happened. Okay. In that case, now you need to establish that there was a fraud and that this document that's here in front of you is a fraudulent document. It doesn't actually reflect the will of the president, because it's not that he didn't have enough ability to understand. It's that they didn't even bother telling that old man. No one told the old man that they were giving these pardons. And that's possible. That is possible. How would you prove that? And at first I thought that might be impossible to prove, but then I thought about it some more. And I thought to myself, it is possible that you can bring some sort of evidence to show that he had no idea that someone's signing these pardons for him. Because it's not like he's you or me. He's the acting president of the United States, at least in name, which means there should be presidential records which are displaying exactly what this guy was doing pretty much every 2 minutes of the day. So if you can go through those presidential records, and especially if those records are neat and clean, and you look through those records and it says, oh yeah, at 2:02 on December 18th, he had a cookie, At 2:04, he finished the cookie, he wiped his mouth. 2:05, he said, now I need to use the bathroom. 2:09, 2:09, he made it to the bathroom. 3:11, he came out of the bathroom. Very detailed records of what he's doing day by day. That's very possible. Detailed in ways that you and me would not have. I mean, unless you're a lawyer and that you're, racking up the billing hours. So, and you're not Nathan Wade. So, yeah, it's very possible. This feels too close. I don't even need this back. It's very, very possible. It's very possible that there are records like that. And if those records don't show him ever having any conversations during the week, 2 weeks leading up to the pardon, then maybe you could say that they never even bothered telling him. Now, that wouldn't help Trump, other than the fact that he would have capacity to prosecute these individuals, but it wouldn't help him define the scope of his pardon powers. That would just be, okay, this president never was told about this, so the documents that are looking like a pardon are actually fraudulent documents signed by people who never had the authority to do it. And that could lead to all sorts of investigations to figure out, okay, who actually had the Autopen, who signed off on this crap, who's being prosecuted for actually literally for impersonating the president of the United States. That sounds like a pretty serious federal crime. So they all have incentive to stand united that, yeah, we told Biden everything. He told us go do it. But if the records are if they have some sort of detailed records as to what this guy was doing minute by minute for the last 4 years, and it's barren of any discussion about Fauci, the select or pardoning the select committee, and then you see these documents come out, but there are talks about other things that he signed off on. But then you see, okay, fine. That's at least some sort of indicia that Pam Bondi could theoretically hang her hat on to say, look, this is fraud. Someone who was in that Oval Office committing fraud on a regular basis. Probably a whole bunch of someone's. But it's a very tough road to hoe. It's very tough. Let me catch up. I got a whole bunch of chats I got to catch up, and I see my good friend Andrew Branca's in the crowd, so we gotta get to him. But the Discord thing that got fixed, my God, right? Thank you, Apocalypse. That was really helpful. Okay, it's very, very funny. Thank you for your help, Wellesley. Thank you so much. You have to state either immunity or pardon, one or the other. With Joe Biden granted Hunter was immunity. That's a good point. He granted him immunity while he only had the pardon power. Yeah. Trump's executive privilege was removed post-office, setting precedents. So now Trump can review all Biden's communications, including privileged, seeing if he was aware of the pardons. That's true. That's exactly where I was going. You got there before I did, I think. But, yeah. Autopens are fun to use. The machine is the size of a stove, and each signature wheel is the size of a hula hoop. I have auto-signed things for Dr. Fauci when I work for him, only awards and such. Did you sign off on the beagles? Did you sign off on the sandflies and the beagle eyes? Well, I appreciate that, pal Angel. Thank you. Thank you so much. Andrew Branca, law of self-defense, much evidence of Biden's mental incompetence, zero evidence of knowing authorization of these pardons. Yeah, but come on. Do you want to take this one to court? They're going to have an evidentiary hearing trying to assess whether his mental acuity here? I don't think you're ever going to win. You also have to remember, one of the things the very first video I ever made, I was talking about how our personal feelings will sometimes dictate decisions that we have. This would likely be prosecuted in D.C., and you would basically be looking to get a judge and or a jury, depending on whether it's an evidentiary hearing or somehow a trial, which probably would be an evidentiary hearing, to sign off on the notion that Biden's presidency and his quote unquote legacy, for whatever good they believe that still to be, that was all corruption by Democrats faking to be his president because he had no idea what was going on. Good luck getting a finding of fact like that. Good luck in that town. I don't see it. I don't think it's ever going to happen. What we really need to know, did Biden poop his pants before meeting the Pope? That's the burning question. That would be there in the records, right? 407 had to scrape out a dookie from his shorts. Wouldn't Joe have to verify he signed those pardons? It's not like there's a notary there. No, I don't think so. I think they know something. Whistleblowers. So this is the interesting thought. Imagine if they actually got one person inside to turn. They're like, I don't know. You sure? You don't want to turn? Because we got some Secret Service people who are milling in and out of that office a lot. And I was close friends with you crew, as you might think. You might want to be the first one to turn. That changes everything. You get a Susan Rice to turn. You get some knucklehead chief of staff guy for Biden to turn and rat on his other friends in exchange for immunity. Everything changes. That changes the entire landscape of what we're looking at. Can they get that? I don't know. Maybe. Immunity is offered from DOJ. So yes, POTUS can offer immunity. POTUS is source of power for DOJ. It's a very interesting thought. That is a very, very interesting thought. Wow. That's a really deep thought. So you're saying, let's just what Allegan News is speculating on is, if the DOJ can offer immunity and their executive powers flow from the president of the United States, you can't confer power you yourself do not have. So it must be that there's an inherent power within the president himself to grant immunity. Now, the way immunity often works is different types of immunity. There's use immunity. I forget what they are. It's one form. But when you're immunizing someone, what you are saying is that we're not going to prosecute you for a crime. Usually there's an exchange, some sort of exchange. You have to do X, Y, Z. You have to testify. You have to do something. There's some sort of barter that's happening there. Like, if you're not charged and you have no potential to be charged, can they You're not going to be doing anything. Could they immunize you? Like frequently when we're talking immunization, we're thinking like you're going to be immunized from any charges that flow from your testimony. So testify truthfully, and anything you talk about, we cannot prosecute you for. So now this is working going forward. This is a future thing, saying what you're going to do in the future, we're going to immunize you from that. That's different from pardoning for the past. So I don't know that you can give immunity for, well, saying because the immunity is basically saying we're not going to prosecute you based on the actions you're going to be doing now. Would anyone think that a president can grant, under this argument, do you think a president can say, I'll grant you immunity? There was an episode of 24 where this sort of issue actually came up. I was watching it like a year ago. I'm repeating it. And Nino basically had a gun on Jack Bauer, and she wanted to kill him. Spoiler alert, in case, in the 30 years since this thing came on the air, you haven't seen it yet. So she wanted to kill Jack Bauer. And she had the president on the phone. And she basically said that she's only going to give over the location of where a bomb's about to go off if the president gives her immunity to kill Jack Bauer. And the first thought I had is like, can he do that? Does he have the authority to actually grant immunity before the action happens? It's a very interesting question. It's a really interesting question. I want to mull this one through in my brain for a while. But I do think immunity, as a general rule, I understand it's going about crimes you committed in the past, but I'm saying in the future, I'm not going to testify. I'll grant you immunity because you're testifying. You're giving me something. There's a barter and exchange that's happening there. Unlike these blanket pardons where I'm bestowing a gift upon you. And it's obviously not something that's referenced in the Second Amendment. So when he puts in when you try phrasing it as being a pardon and it's actually immunity, you can question whether or not that's anything. I mean, he certainly framed all these pardons as being pardons. That's a really interesting thought, though. It's a really interesting thought. Thank you for that. Are there any records of Joe Biden being conscious during any of the Autopen sessions? I don't know. I didn't realize it's the size of a stove. The DC circuits doesn't have long dissolve. Case will start being distributed among judges of other circuits as before. This would be amazing. Oh my God. I'm trying to figure out how that would happen. Like what I'm wondering are you aware of how that process would happen if we just wanted to completely dissolve the DC circuits? Just say it's done. Adios. That would be amazing. No, I would never. I love the puppies. I'd kill pretending if I had known it was happening. All right. I didn't think it was really you. I didn't think so. Opponent's immunity is the highest power, covers full executive ability to prosecute. Exchange is not required. When the Constitution says it is required. Where in the Constitution is immunity written at all? See, I look at immunity as almost like a contractual deal between the government and the individual who gets the immunity. So I don't look at it as being a constitutional power. I look at it as being and maybe this is why your intriguing thought is not really relevant in the context of this entire conversation. Because if it's a contractual deal, where it's like, we don't have the power to prosecute you, which is, I think, a reasonable way of interpreting what immunity is. The reason I think that's a reasonable way of interpreting it is because of what I explained with respect to Ghislaine Maxwell. When she was charged in the Southern District of New York, her lawyers came forward and said, you can't charge her. Epstein negotiated an immunity deal for her, so you can't charge her. And the court came back and said, no. It's well established that when a district issues an immunity deal to someone, that binds them. It has no binding effect on anyone else in a different district. Meaning, it sounds as if their sphere is over here, and perhaps that's all they can contract out. But they don't have any contractual abilities beyond their own domain. Which is why, even though she did have a binding immunity deal because of the Epstein deal, she had a binding protection with respect to the Southern District of Florida, she had zero deal to help protect her in New York. So I think looking at an immunity power of the prosecutor viewed as being a contractual thing, I think that's I think it takes it out of the realm of this conversation. Because a contractual thing is an exchange, right? There's an exchange. You're pleading guilty and we're going to give you immunity. But you have to do something. How does the Attorney General have that power then? The Attorney General would have broader powers, obviously, because she would have that power to give to barter an exchange, and she would be on a federal level as opposed to just in one jurisdiction. Congress controls all courts and districts except SCOTUS. They can remove and add courts. They can remove budget except judge pay. Yeah, so how are you going to get Congress to dissolve DC? Because I think you would need 60 senators to go on board with that, and you'll never get that. You'll never get that. So it would be hilarious if he would fire the DC Circuit Court by executive order and then just watch the mayhem that ensues. What? You can't do this. Get his federal people to get his U.S. Marshals to shut down the building. William H. Perriman building. Oh, that would be amazing. William J? No, definitely the Perriman building. That would be amazing. Oh my God, I would love that. Let me do a quick check here, make sure I didn't miss. Bob loves Alaska. Just popping before watching on my TV. Still in X jail, but not in solitary confinement. And able to read posts only. Continue my appeal to set free. Best of luck to that. I'm sorry about that. That's terrible. That's really terrible. Yeah, so I think that's all my thoughts on this. I think that I personally believe that it's a real struggle to get him out, to get those pardons knocked out on the pen thing. I really like the attacking the pardon argument stronger. I do need to share one clip with you before I move on to my next story. One quick clip with you of clowns being clowns. Referring specifically now to the worst journalist ever, Don Lemon. This guy, the audacity of this jackass.
It's the same thing when I see not all black Republicans, but when I see a black MAGA person who is carrying Donald Trump's water and they know that he's lying, it is the shortest line to the front.
Because they know he's lying. They know it.
If you're black and you're whatever, you're just in line with a bunch of other Democrats that are doing the same thing that you're doing. But if you become a black MAGA person, it's like, whoa, let's book this person, let's put him on television.
So you don't think you can be a sincere black MAGA person?
I just said I don't think that. I just said I think there can be sincere Republicans.
But you can't be a sincere black Republican.
I don't think that you can. I don't think that you can be a rational MAGA, be black and be a rational MAGA person. I think you can be black and be a Republican.
I think they would find that very insulting.
Well, I mean, the truth is often insulting. It's the same thing that
I think he lost all of his rationality a long time ago. A long, long time ago. Unbelievable. Tom Luke crazy. The one who posted that out. Let's see this response.
Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation. Democrats fought a war to keep their slaves. Republican President Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation, freeing all slaves in America. Democrat slave owners were furious. Lincoln made equality for all black people part of the official Republican Party platform. Republicans wrote and passed the 13th Amendment, ending slavery forever in the United States. Most Democrats voted against it. Republicans wrote and passed the 14th Amendment and granted citizenship and equal protection under the law to former slaves. No Democrats voted for it. Republicans wrote and passed the 15th Amendment, allowing Black Americans the right to vote. No Democrats voted for it. The first Black senator was a Republican. The first Black member of the U.S. House of Representatives, a Republican and former slave. In fact, the first 23 African-American members of Congress were all Republican. While Republicans were electing Black people to Congress, the Democrats were founding the KKK. The KKK was founded in opposition to the Republican Party. The KKK dedicated itself to a campaign of violence against Republican leaders and voters, both Black and white. The KKK wanted white supremacy fulfilled through electing Democrats. Democrat states passed racist Jim Crow laws that dehumanized Black people. Republican President Dwight D. Eisenhower sent the National Guard to protect Black students, integrating into all-white schools in Little Rock, Arkansas. Who opposed this? The Democrats who ran that state. A segregationist Democrat ran for president every cycle until the 1980s. The Civil Rights Act outlawed discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, or sex. By percentage, more Republicans voted for the Civil Rights Act than Democrats. Republican President Nixon used federal powers to desegregate even more states. Black Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas, nominated by George H.W. Bush. His son, George W. Bush, started an AIDS program.
I'm just going to go on record, and I want to be clear about this. That is far and away the most significant and best thing President George Herbert Walker Bush ever did in his life. It's not even close. Gifting us Clarence Thomas was easily, hands down, the best thing that HW ever did for America. Terrible president. Just awful. But yeah.
Program that saved over 13 million lives, mostly in Africa. President Trump restored funding to historically Black colleges and universities. President Trump passed the First Step Act, achieving landmark criminal justice reform. President Trump passed the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which featured opportunity.
Oh, but you have to be crazy if you support Trump and you're a MAGA guy.
Opportunity zones, incentivizing long-term investments in low-income communities. Under President Trump, unemployment for Black Americans fell to the lowest number Americans have ever seen, and Black wages rose to the highest numbers in history. Meanwhile, Democrat governor of Virginia wears blackface multiple times and remains in office while Joe Biden tells me I am not Black unless I vote for him. So tell me, who are the real racists? Who wants to keep you in bondage? Be free. Live free. That is my right as an American.
All right. There you go. Well said, brother. Well said indeed. Donald's just upset his career is failing and he wishes he could be a black MAGA. It's true. It's so true. Ever see Don talk about fatherless homes? No. You sent me a DM? How long is it? How long is it?
I'm not sure I can take a bow.
Oh, that was when he was saying like fatherless homes is like the problem, right? I think. Looks like a long thing. Nothing, did you? Looks like a long thing. Underground Railroad came through here in Maumee, Ohio. Cool. Just looked it up. Congress can't eliminate any courts once they're established. So this, I saw this super chat, and this actually made me think. Seriously, how does it get dissolved? How would a court be dissolved, like legally? And I stumbled, and I asked Google to tell me that. How would a court be dissolved? Just to get like initial thoughts on it. And this is what I got. Can the president dissolve the Supreme Court? I don't want that. I don't want dissolving the Supreme Court. Congressional power to abolish federal courts. The judicial power of the United States shall be vested in one Supreme Court. Inferior courts. Okay. The first instance of Congress eliminating lower federal courts did not provide a clear answer to that question. The Judiciary Act of February 13, 1801 passed in the closing weeks of John Adams' presidency made major structural changes to the federal courts. The act reorganized the existing 3 judicial circuits into 6 circuits. This is getting long. President Adams appointed judges to many of the newly created seats, and those so-called midnight judges were confirmed by the Senate. That's where we had Madison v. Marbury. It came about from this case, from this thing. Congress enacted legislation to change the court's term to forestall a constitutional attack and repeal the Judicial Act of 1801. And the court didn't convene for 14 months. On subsequent occasions, when Congress eliminated Article 3 courts, the legislation provided for judges from the abolished courts to continue to serve on other Article 3 courts. Yeah, I think it would have to be an act of Congress. Congress again exercised power to abolish federal court in 1913, eliminating the short-lived Commerce Court. The 1913 legislation provided for redistribution of the Commerce Court judges among the federal appeals courts. In 1982, they abolished the Court of Claims of U.S. Customs and Patent Appeals, instead of establishing the Article 1 Court. And again, they sent the judges packing elsewhere. Interesting. All right. I really flew a little bit afield on that. I didn't mean to spend as long on that particular thing as I did, but it was time well spent. It's time well spent. As opposed to everything the Democrats do, which is time poorly spent. At least in the eyes of the public is not impressed with the Democratic Party right now. This is from CNN.
Spare all I have to say, Democrats, call your office. You know, we're March Madness times. Terrible, terrible, terrible. To quote the great Charles Barkley, view Democratic Party favorably. CNN SRS, look at this, 29%. NBC News, you want to go lower than that? How about 27%? Both are record lows. The lowest going back to 1992 in CNN polling, the lowest going back on record to 1990 in NBC News polling. The majority of Americans hold an unfavorable or negative view of the Democratic Party at this point. All I can say is I'm a big fan of the oldies, so I'm going to quote Chubby Checker. How low can you go?
Nice. Well done. With that, what about congressional Democrats specifically?
Yeah, what about congressional Democrats specifically? You think these numbers are low? How about this one? Holy Toledo. Voters' views of the Democrats in Congress among all voters disapprove, 68%. And look at the approved number, just 21%, even lower than the Democratic Party at large. This is the lowest on record for Democrats, according to Quinnipiac University polling. You think these numbers are bad? Let's go to.
They were doing better when they were the party of the KKK. Literally doing better. They were doing better when they were standing up for slavery.
This side of the screen, we'll look how Democratic voters feel. Get this. The plurality of Democratic voters disapprove of Democrats in Congress at 49%, and just 40% approve. Horrible, horrible, horrible. Oh, my goodness gracious, you just can't get worse than these numbers.
And this is the number right here really driving all of this. If Democratic voters have turned on Democrats in Congress and the Democratic Party, that's what puts the numbers at historic lows. What is it they want to be seeing, these voters?
What is going on? I'll tell you what's going on. They don't like what's coming out of some of those Senate Democrats like Chuck Schumer, because take a look at the direction of the party. Democratic voters on Democrats in Congress doing too little to oppose Donald Trump. Look at this. 77% should stay principled, even if it means nothing gets done in Washington, D.C. 65%. And this 65% is such a difference from where we were in 2017.
What the hell are their principles? Their principles are stop Trump, stay principled. What the hell does stay principled mean?
At this point, when just 33% of Democrats say they should stay principled, compared to 59% who said they want to compromise. Democrats do not want compromise at this point. They want a fighter. They want to go into the ring like Muhammad Ali did against Sonny Liston. They want to take down the Republicans. They do.
Oh yeah. That's a perfect analogy right there.
Not want this compromise anymore. They want to be more like Republicans, can get up to that stage and fight. And right now they feel like their leaders in Congress are simply not doing so. And that is why their approval rating for congressional Democrats is at an all-time low, even among Democrats with more disapproving than approving.
Yeah, it seems that these Senate Democrats, some of them are banking on the idea that there is still a political middle, as it were. We will see. We will see.
We will see if there's a political middle, but at this point, count me skeptical that is at least what the Democratic base wants at this point. It's going to be very interesting, John, to see moving forward whether or not there are any repercussions come 2026, because I bet there may be some coming.
Harry, thank you.
Thank you.
Well, you got everything right during your last election cycle prediction. Oh no, you didn't. You got nothing right. You got nothing right at all. Nothing right at all. Dominion After Dark has raided my stream. Thank you, DAD. Thank you so much. Welcome all you Dominion folk. Maybe some of you will hit that like on the way on in here, because there's 425 of you watching and only 70 likes, which is far too low. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. But thank you for rating me, brother. So that's what's going on there. That's what's going on there. And now there's all this talk of AOC stepping in to replace Schumer. And then you got this idiot here. Oh, wait, there was one more thing. Is it down here? No. This woman who's competing for stupidest woman in Congress, Jasmine Crockett.
You're close with Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of New York. Some of your fellow House Democrats say, and not just progressives, by the way, we've heard that moderates have said this too, that they're ready to support her to challenge Chuck Schumer in a Democratic primary. Would you get behind that?
Oh my God, they're eating him alive! All because he signed off on a CR bill. All because he signed off on a CR bill rather than closing government, which frankly was the right call, because the next bill would have been even worse. And worse and worse. And everyone knew it was the Democrats shutting it down. They were proudly saying, we have to stand in Trump's way. Because they were stupidly, because they do the little walkie-talkie TikTok videos. We're going to stand in his way. We're going to stand in his way because he has to be stopped. Oh, wait. You mean we're going to be out of business like the next 4 years unless we sign off on this thing? This clown here with the falsy eyelashes, the fake hair, the fake eyelashes, everything about this woman is fake. She about to get real with y'all.
That's 4 years from now. If you were asking me at least in 2 years, then I would have an absolute answer. But I can tell you that there are a lot of people that are watching his leadership in this moment. This is the moment. We don't even know what elections will look like in 4 years, if we will have elections. And so I definitely...
We don't even know if we're going to have elections in 4 years. We might even have elections. There could be, for all we look, and I have to say she's making a fair point here. We don't know if we're going to have elections in 4 years. Zombies, right? I mean, what if the zombie outbreak comes? No elections 4 years from now. Nothing. Nada. Nil. Would you go to your local voting precinct and cast a ballot if there's zombies around? I don't think you would. You don't know. There could be earthquakes. No one knows. You don't know the future. I don't know how she's so confident she'll know in 2 years that there's going to be elections 4 years now. How can anyone not? If you've seen The Walking Dead, you know there's no predicting. Did you see 28 Days Later? You think after that sort of thing, you think there's going to be all sorts of elections? That's going to be on your mind? No. What's going to be on your mind is getting your hands on a baseball bat with like little spikes sticking out of it, and working on your form as you swing that sucker around. That's what's going to be going on. So you're sitting here, Jake Tapper, worrying about elections 4 years from now. You're not even thinking about the zombies. You're not even thinking about it. Are you out of your mind? Oh God, what an idiot.
I think that younger, fresher leadership may be something that many of us not.
Yeah, because you all display such sharp minds, sharp young minds.
Not just depending on what part of the spectrum you're on, but many Americans may be looking for, especially in the state of New York.
How to take on the Republicans is a big topic of discussion among Democrats. Last week, you're close with Congress.
So there you go. There's Jasmine Crockett telling it like it is. Being real with y'all. But wait, there's a lot more going on. Going on here as they talk about AOC replacing him in New York. And I'm going to tell you this. Like, I think it's hilarious watching the Democratic Party implode. 100%. It's hilarious, and we should enjoy it. The notion that she's the great hope of the future. This moron, AOC, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, is the great hope of the future, is such a self-own. It is such a self-own. As Paul Zapula, he's got a big account. I don't know who he is, but he's got a big account. How big are you, Paul? 300,000 followers. AOC's brain completely short circuits when she's asked about Chuck Schumer saying a shutdown would have been worse than accepting the CR. She then pushes the lie that Trump's tax cut only benefits billionaires, because that's basically all she is. She's just a gaslighting lunatic. The Hill debunked that hoax. Middle income filers benefit the most. Income data published by the IRS clearly show that on average, all income brackets benefited substantially from the Republicans' tax reform law, with the biggest beneficiaries being working and middle income filers, not the top 1%, as so many Democrats have argued. And I saw it in a little blurb on X. You know, it's true. A source would be good here, Paul. A source would be good. But it says, going on further, the claim here is it shows that filers with an adjusted gross income of $15,000 to $50,000 enjoyed an average tax cut of 16% to 26% in 2018, the first year Republicans' Tax Cuts and Jobs Act went into effect, and the most recent year for which data is available. So, would love to know your source. I guess he's saying that's the Hill. Maybe that's the Hill. I guess he's saying the Hill. I'm going to assume it's the Hill. Maybe a little link to the Hill would be of benefit. That could be. I don't know. The senator does now face the perception that his sensibilities are antiquated are antiquated, that his political dexterity has faded, and most importantly, that he lacks the vigor to take on Trump. He lacks the vigor to take on Trump for what? 4 years of saying we're not having a government open? They have no idea how wise he was for backtracking before the government shut down. Because it would have been, imagine this week if everyone was screaming about the fact that Democrats had the government shut down. And then another week, and then another week. And meanwhile, Elon Musk is announcing more waste that he's found and more cuts that need to come into the next CR bill. You're in a no-win scenario. So as much as I despise Chuck Schumer, and I know that he's a lying, two-faced son of a bitch, I do recognize that he made the right call in caving here. But his vile party sees an opportunity to take the old man down. That's what's happening. They have an opportunity to get a change of face, and they feel like a change of face can only help because no one is happy with the Democratic Party, because as CNN is reporting, 29% of Democrats approve of what's going on now. So if they can use the what happened last week with the CR bill as a basis to hatch it, so they hope like, oh, okay, remember we got a little bump when we brought in Kamala, so we'll get a bump if we bring in AOC. She would last 3 months. I don't mean as president. I'm saying 3 months before she would just be exposed as being a complete and total lunatic to her own party and to middle America. Even if he hadn't just saw this as Aaron Regenberg, I don't know who he is, but I saw this, that he said even if he hadn't just sold this out, Schumer should have already resigned in any other country when a party is hated. The leadership steps down because that's how you improve your brand. Really? Really? So even if it's a sucky alternative, you're improving your brand. Like a new, less hated face. Oh, that's very important to not be hated. Schumer cannot be Dems' face if we want to win. It's very important they have a face that people really like in an odd number year. That's very, very important. They're so lost. They're so lost. The Democratic Organizing Network, Indivisible, calls for Schumer to step down. This was awesome. They want to get rid of him. After weeks of constituents demanding Democrats use this rare, precious point of leverage on the government funding bill, Schumer did the opposite. He led the charge to wave the white flag of surrender, but Indivisible has no intention of surrendering to Trump, Musk, and the Congressional Republicans. That is why today we call 2 emergency meetings of Indivisible group leaders for groups in New York and for the 1,600 local Indivisible groups nationwide. In a vote, the 2 groups gave us clear direction. 82% of group leaders in New York and 91% of Indivisible group leaders nationwide voted to call for Schumer to step aside as Senate Minority Leader. Accordingly, Indivisible is calling for Chuck Schumer to step down from Senate Democratic leadership. We thank him for his service, but we need to stab him in the back right now. Sorry, but we need new leadership in the moment. We understand to get there, we need a chorus of support for change. It's so amazing that this guy who went to the President of the United States in July and came there like Brutus with a knife and was like, you're getting out of the race. You're getting out of the race. Stabbing in the back. That his stupid, confused, ridiculous party, his party, which is offering up stuff like we stand for women's rights and we cannot define what a woman is, but we stand up. We're the party that stands up for women's rights. A party that is saying we must waste as much money as possible. And how dare anyone come in there and try and eliminate waste? A party that says, I don't care if it's a gang member who's a 50-time sexual assaulter. How dare you remove him from our country? That party is having a leadership issue. The leadership issue is not in your messaging. It's in your message. The problem is not messaging. It's your message. Your message is stupid. Your message is self-destructive. Your message has been rejected by America. So you could sit there whining and crying and saying, oh, no, it's not fair that we have an old man named Chuck Schumer who's running everything for us. You can sit there whining and crying even as you put up Kamala Harris, the most confused individual on earth, to talk in circles about the passage of time and the time of passage and time is passing and she's passing time and everyone's just hanging around passing time and how significant that is. And think to yourself, oh, this is winning messaging. It's at a certain point, maybe you wake up and recognize it's not the messaging and it's not the messenger. It is your message. Your message is awful, and it's transparently awful, and it has led to failure and death and worse, and Americans being worse off. So maybe try revamping your policies. I don't know. Just a thought. Prediction: Schumer is driven to retire from the Senate. Hochul appoints ALC senator. ALC is elected minority leader. I don't think she'll be elected minority leader so fast. I don't think that's going to happen. That I don't think is going to happen so fast. I also don't think he's going to retire from the Senate so fast. I don't think that's going to happen. Now, I will tell you this. AOC is very popular in New York. And if she tries primarying Schumer, most of the Democrats in New York are coming basically from her district or New York City. Most Democrats in New York are not from upstate. Most of them are coming from exactly where her base is. And even though she was self-destructive to New York from the day she got in there and chased Amazon out of Queens, New York, even though she's incompetent and dangerous to everyone who's affected by her policies. But she comes in there with her stupid little cutesy stamping of her feet, and New York just somehow crumbles to her stupidity. And she's built a war chest that is the envy of Congress. It's the envy of Congress. How much she can blitz commercials and campaigns and stuff, and that's sitting as a House member. So, is she a political threat to Schumer? Oh, hell yeah, she's easily the biggest threat to Chuck Schumer. So, she could beat him in a primary. I think they're doing a fine job. Joe, don't. Well, I think they're doing a fine job too. Don't spike the ball before crossing the goal line, folks. Well, it's 2025. It's an odd number of years. So for now, we can spike the ball. We'll start gearing back up again in 2026. For now, we can be ball spiking. If you're ever going to be, when is the goal line ever crossed? When? Especially we just got a continuing CR bill. When is the goal line ever crossed? At some point, you got to spike sometimes. It's the ball is meant to be spiked. If not now, when? So I have no problem. I much prefer people spiking the ball now than a year from now, or worse yet, 3 years from now. Please interview Sheldon Daniels. He's a lawyer that has the stuff on Crockett. It's on X. Sheldon Daniels. Sheldon Daniels. Ian Sheldon? Is that a typo? Oh, Sheldon Daniels for Congress. He's running against Jasmine Crockett. I pull up Sheldon Daniels here. He reminded me of other news that came out today, which I don't know if I even trust this news to be accurate or not. We'll see. Time will tell, sure enough. But he is running in Texas District 30. Army veteran attorney, small business owner, and the common sense fighter are running to flip Texas 30. He says, JFK was assassinated in my district. People deserve to know what really happened. Trump says that he's going to release JFK files tomorrow. Do you believe that's going to happen, unredacted? Do you believe that's going to happen? Because honestly, I'm tired of all the promises. I'd love to see just actual action happen. But I'm curious whether you guys think that he's telling the truth, that it's just actual action happen. But I'm curious whether you guys. I'm going to put a poll up here because it's time to poll. Bum 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 bum. Do you believe? And I'm going to check Rumble also. So just tell me yes or no. Yes, it will be released, or no, we're going to be utterly disappointed. JFK files will be released. I'll give a few options here tomorrow because that's what they said. So tomorrow we'll have released but insanely redacted. I just insanely ridiculously. Release. Start my poll now. So you guys can all jump on my poll. Deep is saying yes, redacted. JP Schwartz saying no. I have my doubts. Asteroid? Yeah, no, that could be why. Another reason we won't have elections 4 years from now. You know, Bruce Willis doesn't look like he's in any kind of shape to go flying up and drilling into some asteroids. So who knows what's going to happen? Anything could happen. We need that video I sent you. Probably can't show it though. So then what am I supposed to do with that? If Democratic policies were food, they would taste like corned beef with baby. Corned beef had a baby with despair. God, what was that? What is that? What is? Oh my gosh! Pelosi needs AOC to be her bartender. Nice. AOC district shifted to Trump in last election. Did it really? And still, she won handily. We have turned into that girl who waits by the phone for Big Daddy Fed to call us and tell us their secrets. Yeah. It's embarrassing. It's embarrassing. The whole situation, terrible. Terribly embarrassing. I sent you the link on X. Job Force sent me the link on X. What did you send me on X? Job 49. That's only 4 minutes. Okay. This is the great reveal on Jasmine Crockett. I appreciate that. Thank you, Job 40. Thank you kindly.
All right, guys. So I'm about to go to Randy Best's house, introduce myself, and just ask them straight up if they contributed to Jasmine's campaign, if they contributed that amount, and why they like her so much, because I might be able to learn a little bit of something while I'm up here. I'm way up here in Collin County. I'm in Plano, Texas, very far from TX30. It's very peculiar that somebody up here would give that much money to a candidate in our district. maybe they have a special connection to the district. Let's go find out.
How much
I'm not
money?
going to film them. I'm not going to put any faces or anything on there. I'm just going to have my camera down at the ground. I'm going to be standing in a public, area in open air. I'm just, recording what's going on around me. Let's see what happens.
Right. Yeah. We don't need this part.
All right, here's the house. Here's the house right here. Here we go.
Don't show the house number. Thank you.
How do you do, ma'am?
No soliciting.
I'm not here. I'm not a solicitor. I'm attorney Sheldon Daniels.
Okay.
Is there a Randy Best who lives here?
That's my husband.
Yeah. I just want to verify. Are you guys aware that you were charged over $16,000 last year? Yeah. I have a list of charges. I'm just here to verify that you guys know about this. $16,240 in political contributions to a candidate named Jasmine Crockett. Do you remember that at all? Does your husband remember that at all?
I don't know. He's on the road on his way to Colorado.
Okay. It says here that he's not employed. Is he employed now?
No, we're retired.
Okay. I can leave this with you if you want. It's got your information on it.
Yeah, you can just leave it on the table.
Yes, ma'am. You mind if I take a picture?
Go ahead.
All right, thank you.
All right.
Okay, guys. So I just drove by the home.
What's the
of this
theory,
Randy
Colin?
Best guy. This guy, he's 73-year-old.
I want the theory.
Retiree, unemployed. He and his wife, I guess they just travel around in an RV or something. I don't know. But he's on the road. His wife answered the door. She said that they had no idea what these charges were. And they had no idea that they were charged $16,000 or that they are responsible for $16,000 in political contributions to Jasmine Crockett. Yet she has them listed as political contributors. Now, mind you, I'm way up here in Plano. I'm in a totally different county. I'm in Collin County right now. The only reason why I'm even able to do this is because I practice law all over North Texas and I drive all over. So I know North Texas very well. Collin County, Dallas County, Tarrant County, Denton County, Grayson County. A lot of shady stuff going on with Jasmine Crockett. And I see why she was doing all this, because she's trying to distract from the corruption. I wonder how deep it goes.
Okay. I need a little bit clearer as to what his theory is. I'm very curious what he's even getting at, but that was something. All right. Prediction release redacted 200 pages. Bonnie says she thought that's what it was. I was going to say, how are you even releasing it? Like, it's going to be a link? If I see more dancing tomorrow, I'm going to be mad. Joe, Trump has only been in office 2 months. Takes time to get cabinet filled with people who will not ignore his orders. Pam had an oops, but I think in time she'll make heads roll. Patience. And I think that's a fair take, Patty. I think it's a very fair take. I'm still wondering what the hell happened. That's a fair take. I'll just say that. It's a fair take. We'll see. We'll see what ends up happening. The Epstein release was a disaster. I still don't know. I don't know why we still haven't gotten that. But yeah, I mean, I do agree with you that if she's going after people and prosecuting them, you feel like that's got to be a 3 to 6 month process minimum before indictments are dropped, right? That's not something that happens in 10 minutes. So, yeah, I think that we're not going to really be able to assess what kind of job Pam Bondi is doing until 2020, a year from now, till at least January 2026. And by that point, hopefully, we're raving about the indictments that have come out. Hopefully. But as of right now, no, we don't. It's a little early to tell. She's made people turn on her with some weak performances on TV, where she just seems to be engaging in Kamala type doublespeak and doesn't appear confident in what she's saying. She's been made to look weak, either by her own poor abilities on TV or by the people who are questioning her, but she hasn't looked strong. And I think that's shaken the confidence of a lot of people. That combined with the failure to release has shaken a lot of people. So we'll see. Grok will draw deepfakes of AOC doing the net. I hope not. I really hope not. Dallas County is famous for being corrupt, not surprised. Act Blue taught me to never donate to elections. Yeah, so it's funny you say that. Someone asked me for a donation just today. What is that?
All right, guys.
Oh, that's him.
So I'm about.
I don't need that. We just got that. Okay. And time to move on to our final topic, which is the Alien Invasion Act. The Alien Invasion Act. So, what do I have for you here? This is the Alien Invasion Act. And this one that I'm looking at is not from 1798. This one's from 1918. So people are a little confused as to which title and chapter we're dealing with. I'm looking at Title 50, Chapter 3. And what I found here is wherever there's a declared war between the United States and any foreign nation or government, or any invasion or predatory incursion is perpetrated, attempted, or threatened against the territory of the United States by any foreign nation or government, and the President makes public proclamation of the event, all natives, citizens, denizens, or subjects of the hostile nation or government being of the age of 14 upward, who shall be within the United States and not actually naturalized, shall be liable to be apprehended, restrained, secured, and removed as alien enemies. So a lot of people say, well, it's never been invoked except during times of war. It's never been invoked except during times of war. How can you do this? We're not at war. There's no declaration of war. Congress hasn't declared war. Only Congress declared war. The president can't declare war. Well, that's nice. But you can have either a declared war and a foreign nation government, or big word here, or any invasion or predatory incursion is perpetrated, attempted, or threatened against the territory of the United States by any foreign nation or government, and the president makes public proclamation of the event. And that is why he cited President Maduro, very wisely said, hey, you got these aliens coming up here. President Maduro is trying to come in here and conquer America. He's trying to conquer America, so we're going to take them all and just get rid of them. Get rid of them. And that's the president making a public proclamation of the invasion. That's what he's doing. Remember how I started this show off and I said, this whole thing where he writes here, I hereby declare that the Biden stuff is null and void, that doesn't do anything. That's got no power. It's got no legal significance. It does nothing. Either they're valid or they're not valid. It's not like he has a power to invalidate them by declaring them so. It's pretty much not, to be fair, it's pretty much like Donald Trump's, or it's like Michael Scott standing up there and screaming, I declare bankruptcy. It didn't do anything. Like literally nothing other than, I guess, push Pam Bondi to get off her seat and do what she got to do. That's all it did. That's all it did when he declared the pardons null and void. No legal effect. Very different. Very different, though, when the president needs to make a public proclamation in order to spur something into action. It's a conditioned precedent. So there, his public proclamation actually has a legal effect. And now we can go after them. If he didn't put it out there, we wouldn't be able to go after them. We need that declaration from the president. So that declaration from the president is, let me see if I can find it. Maybe one of you can send me the declaration from President Trump so we can break down that declaration. I forgot to pull that up. So let me do a quick Trump Oh, look. Oh, one of you sent me a little sent me a tweet from Anna Polina Luna, Representative Anna Polina Luna. Thank you for sharing this with me on the JFK thing. This is important. This is in case you want to find it before my show. Just talked to U.S. Nat Archives. All JFK files being released tomorrow will be housed at the below link. And it's archives.gov/JFK. Archives.gov/JFK. Which I would imagine there's thousands of documents. We'll see. We'll see. I'm curious. Let's see if we can do that up. Here's Pam Bondi talking about the Alien Invasion Act.
Well, Janine, the Alien Enemies Act applies to a situation just like this. And it's interesting, people argue that it's such an old law. I think an old law is a virtue, not a vice. Think about that. Our founding fathers knew exactly what they were doing, and it applies to a situation just like this. Trans de Agua, they are a foreign arm of the Venezuelan government. They are organized, they have a command structure, and they have invaded our country. They are raping, they are murdering U.S. citizens, and they are coming here in mass numbers. And Donald Trump invoked the Alien Enemies Act just like he should, and he has gotten rid of them a lot. There are a lot more to go. And, you know, there are 261 reasons why Americans are safer tonight, because 261 of those monsters have been taken out of our country. They're one of the most violent organizations in the world, and they had invaded America, Janine.
Wow. Wow. Look at that. So she's standing behind it. She's all gung-ho about it. That's a good thing. And she looked good there. I mean, as far as looking confident, that's what I was referring to. In case you were wondering what does that mean, Joe? I mean, she looked very confident and strong in that, and in that appearance. So that's good. That's a good sign. I'm trying to see if I can find it here. James. Well, at any rate, maybe we'll pull it up shortly. So, based on that, he started deporting folks. Chief Judge of the D.C. Circuit, James Boasberg, was not having it. He was not happy about this, saying you can't bring some 200-year-old law as a basis to deport people. That's not the way things work around here. And he demanded that we preserve the status quo. put in a TRO saying you can't remove these folks. Can't do it. Can't do it. Which that led to James Boasberg being brought up to be impeached. And that's being floated through the House right now, the notion of having him impeached. And here are the papers that were put in with respect to that, because he not only ordered them to stop transporting people, he said, I want those planes in the air, turn around, bring them back here, bring them on back home, bring them on back home. And Trump did not do that. He did not do that. And when he didn't do it, he actually had a very strong legal reason to ignore his oral order to turn it to bring those folks back home. And you say, Joe, how could he do that? Isn't that creating a constitutional crisis? Are we in a crisis now? Oh my God, the executive branch isn't listening to the judicial branch. We're going to have a constitutional crisis. There's going to be mayhem. There's going to be anarchy. What's going to happen next? It's going to be tyranny. Oh, King Trump is going to come in here with his big orange bushy hair, and he's going to book orange face, and he's going to start passing all these tyrannical laws. He's going to be stripping me of my rights to inject myself with all sorts of hormones. And he's going to be taking away abuelas. The abuelas are going to be crying, and he's going to round them up, and he's going to get his whip, and he's going to be like, witcha, you get in that van there. That's what's going to happen because we have a constitutional crisis. No, I say to you, all those folks, I say, no, that's not what's happening here. Actually, well, I'm gonna be that guy. Well, actually, that's not the case at all, as they write in their papers here. JGG versus is one of the this is the plaintiff / petitioner who's for one of those gang members who was being forcibly removed. So they said, hey, he's taking them away. He's ignoring a court order. Plaintiffs cannot use these proceedings to interfere with president's national security and foreign affairs authority, and the court lacks jurisdiction to do so. Boom! You don't have the jurisdiction. You don't have the power. The whole Grayskull thing there. I have the power. No, you don't. In response to plaintiffs filing docket 21 in this court's order setting a hearing for this afternoon, the government submits the below response because it provides the necessary information to confirm the government's compliance and represents the extent of what counsel is authorized to share with the public or plaintiffs. The court should vacate the hearing and de-escalate the grave incursions on executive branch authority that have already arisen. If there's a constitutional crisis, it's because our courts don't know their place. Judges don't know your place. Too many judges. Most judges are great. Most of them are phenomenal. But too many judges are happened upon by crazy Democrats who are desperate to stop Trump from affecting his policy as president of the United States and are finding sympathetic judges who are all too happy to ignore the law if it means trying to thwart the will of the current president of the United States. As the government has already explained, and plaintiffs do not appear to dispute, the government complied with the court's TRO issued during the morning of March 15th and did not remove any of the 5 individual plaintiffs. So we listened to you. There's no crisis. We listened to your written order. The government did so despite its powerful jurisdiction and other objections to the court's unprecedented assertion of judicial power to review the proclamation. Meaning, you think you have the power. We don't think you have the power. We think what you wrote there is no more effective than Trump saying, I declare these pardons to be null and invalid. We still listen to you. What about that flight? What about that flight? Much of the plaintiff's submissions rest on the oral directives, not what he put in his written TRO, what he said orally. Because what happened was he issued an oral decision and then afterwards wrote his TRO. So his oral directives that the court provided during the hearing held during the evening of March 15th. But the plaintiffs implicitly recognized the court's written injunction, which was issued at 7:25 p.m., a couple hours later, properly did not seek to interfere with the president's Article 2 powers to conduct military operations overseas by directing the return of aliens associated with the designated foreign terrorist organization who had already been removed from the United States territory. So yeah, they're in the air. They're not over the United States. So they're not in America. Even though the written order didn't memorialize other narrower oral directives from the hearing. So he left it out. The judge, you kind of screwed up. You kind of forgot to reduce it to writing. And if it's not in the written order, whatever you said in the oral order, that's not binding. That's not binding on us. So I don't care what you were rambling on about like a freaking lunatic on a power trip, thinking that you have the authority to basically thwart the will of the president and supersede international policy. You didn't even write it down. You did not put it in writing. Contrary to plaintiff's assertions, an oral directive is not enforceable as an injunction. Can't force them to do it. Cannot force us to comply with an oral order. Oral statements are not injunctions. A judge who proclaims, "I enjoin you," and does not follow up with an injunction has done nothing. I declare bankruptcy. That's what he did. And the judge does not record an injunction or declaratory judgment on a separate document. The defendant is under no judicial compulsion. So since you didn't write it down, we don't know if you forgot about it. We don't know if you might have changed your mind. I don't know. None of us know. All we have is the written document. And the written document doesn't say we got to bring those jackals back here. That accords with Federal Rules Civil Procedure 65, which contemplates the issuance of a written order. You got no power in mouth. Your mouth is useless. The government's telling Judge Boasberg exactly what his wife has been saying for ages. Your mouth is useless. Indeed, the rule provides that every order granting an injunction and every restraining order must state the reasons why it's issued, state its terms specifically, and describe in reasonable detail the act or acts restrained or required. Written orders are crucial because they clarify the bounds of permissible conduct. If it's not in writing, then everyone's confused. What are we allowed to do? What do we not have to do? What are we directed to do? That's why it has to be in writing. The district has long followed that principle. An injunction does not become an injunction until it is reduced to writing. And that, so yeah, the parts telling us we can't take people out, that was in writing. The parts telling us that we had to fly back here with them, no. And that principle holds especially true when the court does issue a written order. When there's written order and you leave something out that you said orally, it's even more so. But phrases it more narrowly. In that event, the written order controls. We do not review oral statements from the bench on a matter later committed to writing. We review instead the written order and entered by the district court. Indeed, the narrow written order may well represent a more considered judgment by the court about the proper exercise of its powers. Maybe the judge woke up and he's like, wow, maybe he started writing it and he's like, I can't put that in writing. That's embarrassing. In accord with this well-established law, the written minute order governed. It enjoined the government from removing the foreign terrorists. Sorry, the written minute order governed. It could have been minute or minute, but I think they must have been minute. It enjoined the government from removing foreign terrorists pursuant to the proclamation. We did not violate that injunction. As plaintiffs themselves say, the two flights that they identified departed from the United States before 7:25 p.m., that moment before any oral directives. As to any flights that are already outside U.S. territory and airspace, anyone aboard had already been removed within the meaning of the Aliens Enemy Act and the court's order, and therefore were not covered by the order. You didn't have power to talk about them even if you wanted to. Even if you had put it in writing, you wouldn't have power to talk about them. Plain meaning of remove is transfer or moving of a person of one thing from one location, position, or residence to another. And that meaning aligns with the context of Alien Enemies Act, which is concerned with protecting the territorial integrity of the U.S. from foreign incursions. Such a brilliant, I love the way this thing is written. So well written. Now what happens to the alien enemies after they're removed from the United States? Those people were gone. They got here too late. Accordingly, plaintiffs' assertions about U.S. custody after 7:25 p.m. are not relevant. And plaintiffs' questions about what occurred beyond U.S. territory or airspace, which implicates sensitive questions of national security, foreign relations, and coordination with foreign nations, are neither material nor appropriate. So step off. Step off, JGG. Step off, Boasberg. Step off. You telling me to step off? Step off! Step off! Step off, Boasberg! Finally, even if the order had purported to enjoin the government, that would not restrict the president from exercising his other authorities on the Constitution to engage in diplomatic negotiations and protect the United States from dangerous terrorists and criminals already outside the country. So you're so far out of your lane here, it's humiliating. He really was so far out of his lane. President, Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. This power, it's like you have to cite to him that he's the statute, because that's in the Constitution, Article 2, Section 2, that he's the Commander-in-Chief. Did you read the Constitution, Judge Boasberg, Chief Judge of the D.C. District Court? This power is exclusive to the president, includes all authorities and essential to its exercise. So get the F out of here. As Commander-in-Chief, the president, this is almost mocking the judge at this point. The president is authorized to direct the movements of the naval military forces placed by the law as command to employ them in the manner he may deem most effective to harass and conquer and subdue the enemy. The president is also constitutionally empowered to engage in diplomatic negotiations and foreign relations. These inherent Article 2 powers, which comes before Article 3, where they decide to create a Supreme Court and never even create the court that you're sitting in, especially when exercised outside the United States, are not subject to your stupid review or intervention. You have so no power here that it's an embarrassment for yourself that you try to exerting any. The court has no jurisdiction to a bill to enjoin the president the performance of his official duties. Love it. Love it. In sum, just the court assuredly could not enjoin the president carrying out a foreign drone strike or an overseas military operation, or from negotiating with a foreign power to coordinate such an operation, nor could a court lawfully restrict the president's inherent Article 2 authority to work with a foreign nation to transfer terrorists and criminals who are already outside the U.S. Consequently, go GFY. Even if one could broadly and improperly construe the court's minute order as restricting, the written minute, it was the written minute order, as restricting the government. They were talking about the minutes from the conversation. They want to say that's the writing. Is restricting the government from turning over to foreign governments, alien enemies who are already abroad. That still was limited by its terms to actions taken pursuant to proclamation. Once the terrorists were removed, that's not part of the proclamation anymore. So again, go after yourself. The audacity of this judge. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Because there's been no violation of the court orders, because the government is not prepared to disclose any further national security or operational security details to plaintiffs or the public, the court should vacate the hearing scheduled for this afternoon because it's a waste of time. Because the court was calling him back in there to say, hey, what happened to those people? And we're not going to tell you. It's not your business. You have no authority here. What are you going to do? The government does not make this request lightly. The executive branch has designated TDA's foreign terrorist organization, a designation that plaintiffs do not challenge. Meaning that's TDA is that group Trans de Agua that's full of lunatics. The course of these proceedings in which the court has enjoined removal of aliens whom the executive branch has determined are part of a foreign terrorist organization raises extraordinary concerns about the rule of law and the executive branch's ability to take swift actions to keep the nation safe. Respectfully submitted, Pam Bondi. I'll tell you something, Todd Blanche, Emil Bove, Chad Mizell, and the person who wrote it himself, which is Drew Ensign. Maybe a she. Drew could be a woman, I guess. Whoever this attorney is, well written. Well written. Wow. This is the DOJ really telling this judge that he can go to hell. Very, very well written. Very, very, some great arguments in there. Saying, A, it's not in writing. And the fact that it's in writing later on, is written or later on, eradicates anything he said orally there. B, he wasn't even in the States. C, you got no business coming in here and having the audacity to think that you can interfere with international relations. You think Judge Boasberg would back down from that? Oh, no. Oh, no. No. The audacity of these judges. No, there are no bounds. Judge unhappy with Trump administration argument for ignoring oral order on deportations. A federal judge demanded today that the Trump administration explain what happened with deportation flights it allowed to continue after he ordered them to turn around, appearing incredulous as the Justice Department pushed a series of arguments for why his command could be defied. No, why his command was not ever valid. Days after a Maryland. So U.S. District Court James Bosworth told DOJ attorney during the tense hearing this afternoon that he wanted the government to submit by tomorrow afternoon answers to a litany of questions about the deportation flights, including the specific times they left U.S. airspace, landed in Central American countries, and turned over their occupants to the foreign nations. Who the hell this guy thinks he is? The judge also ordered DOJ attorney Abhishek Cambly to explain why he believes that information cannot be shared publicly, as the lawyer claimed in court. If you're saying it's classified and you can't show me, then you have to make a good showing why that is. I'd be interested to hear what that showing is. Seriously. He deserves to be impeached. He really does. This guy's a lunatic. You'll never get the 60 senators you need. You won't get that. Here's Tom Homan talking about this.
You say to those who claim you're using a 200-year-old law to circumvent due process?
What do you say to those claiming you're using a 200-year-old law to circumvent the Constitution?
Law? Not as old as Constitution. We still pay attention to that, don't we?
But some would say this is...
How many more times do you plan on deporting El Salvador?
You say to those who claim you're using
I love Tom Homan.
law to circumvent due process?
An old law? Not as old as Constitution. We still pay attention to that, don't we?
Don't we? Don't we? He's so good. He's so good. And then there was this fine gentleman who wants to weigh in as well.
Criticism that the Alien Enemies Act has only been invoked 3 other times. They were all during times of war. Do you feel that you're using it appropriately right now?
Well, this is a time of war because Biden allowed millions of people, many of them criminals, many of them at the highest level. They emptied jails out. Other nations emptied their jails into the United States. That's an invasion. And these are criminals, many, many criminals, murderers, drug dealers at the highest level, drug lords, people from mental institutions. That's an invasion. They invaded our country. So this isn't, in that sense, this is war.
Criticism that the Alien...
There you go. I think she meant a declaration of war. But you don't need to have a declaration of war to go forward. Also, you don't have to rely on 200-year-old regulation. You can have Alien Enemies, 50 U.S.C. Chapter 3 that we read earlier. You got that. That's from 1918. It was derived from this. It's been updated. So they're kind of out of their minds. Kind of out of their minds. But I don't know that this account is government related. And I'm probably going to have to edit this out afterwards. Not going to kid you. But the White House got 1.3 million followers. I don't know if it's government related. Usually there's some reference. If there's some relation there, oh my God, this is A-level trolling.
Closing time. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. I know you want to take me home.
It's so good. So good. So good. Closing time. Closing time indeed. So good. It's not Africans. It's not Africans. Think about it. She just got a truckload of files. They have to protect the victims. They have to go through all of it. That takes time. She said, Patty, you're talking now when I was talking about how Pam Bondi was a disappointment in what she hasn't released yet. Protecting the victims, yes. Yes, I'm fine with that. You know, some of the victims' names are known, like Annie Farmer. Protecting the victims is appropriate. That's not what she said. She said I have to protect the grand jury so that their names aren't leaked. And I'm saying to myself, or imagine you found out the names. Let's say you were a very violent person and you found out the names of the people on the grand jury who indicted Jeffrey Epstein. You saw their names. Would you be like, oh my gosh, let's go harass those people for indicting Jeffrey Epstein? Does that make any sense? Like they're at risk? There's a risk to them? Now, perhaps legally she has an obligation to keep their names classified. That would make sense, I guess. And she wants to fulfill that. She said she's protecting national security. What national security is there around Jeffrey Epstein? Like what does that even mean? So, yeah. And this they also can have like drops. Like, okay, here's 1,000 pages of documents. Here's this senator grunting like a pig on Epstein Island. There you go. That was part of his blackmail tapes. You think we're going to get any of the tapes? I'll tell you right now. My prediction is 0 tapes. 0 tapes. What about the Alien Invasion Act of 1996 with Will Smith and Jeff Goldblum? I hadn't thought of that. You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. But you can't stay here. Oh, you wrote this at 12:12. You wrote this 30 minutes ago. You beat me by a light year. Foreign Enemies Act forgot to include supranational entities. Supranational entities. Yeah, I guess they didn't think about that. That is a concern. That is a concern. That's not what his wife said was useless. You picked up where I was going. Obama deported 3 million people. He started with criminals first. No judge ever tried to stop him. Democrats are hypocrites, but Trump is bad. See, even our 15-month German member here, she knows. Deporter in chief, but Judge Boasberg thinks he's important. USA does not need to declare war for another nation to be at war with us. And also, the text of that statute says you can have either, just to review, whenever there is a declared war, meaning that's Congress, the United States foreign national government, or no declared war. You don't have that part, but you do have an invasion or predatory incursion that's perpetrated, attempted, or threatened against the territory of the United States by any foreign nation or government, and the president makes public proclamation of the event. Let me see if any of you shared that with me. Did you share that with me? I was looking for it before. I really wanted to find that. Oh, he actually invoked. Oh, okay. He did it through the White House. Well, that was all a tweet. So this is what was so intelligent about what he did. There was actually a certain, not always does the Trump administration think ahead as well as they did on this. Let's take a quick look here at the language that he used. TDA, Tren de Aragua, is a designated foreign terrorist organization with thousands of members, many of whom have unlawfully infiltrated the United States and are conducting irregular warfare and undertaking hostile actions against the U.S. TDA operates in conjunction with Cartel de los Soles, the Nicolas Maduro regime-sponsored narco-terrorism enterprise based in Venezuela, and commits brutal crimes including murder, kidnapping, extortion, human drug and weapons trafficking. TDA has engaged in and continues to engage in mass illegal migration to the United States to further its objectives of harming United States citizens. So what he's saying is they're invading us and they're bringing in other illegals. So now you have a basis to go after all illegal aliens, saying it's an invasion. That undermines public safety and supporting the Maduro's regime goal of destabilizing democratic nations in the Americas, including the United States. Look at this paragraph here. It's so well structured because basically he's setting out how this is your typical traditional invoking of this is an invasion of our territories. The same way, let's say a couple hundred years ago, Pablo Sanchez or so someone would come across the border into Texas once Texas becomes a state. So basically, we have to protect ourselves from that. We're not officially. This is a foreign government. They're related to this foreign government, this Venezuelan government. So we're trying to stop this foreign government from coming after us. Is that an accurate assessment? Doesn't really matter because once you have this proclamation here, that now becomes this. Now that opens up the Alien Enemies Act. TDA is closely aligned with and indeed has infiltrated the Maduro regime, including its military and law enforcement apparatus. They grew significantly with Tareq el-Aissami, served as governor of Aragua between 2012 and 2017. In 2017, el-Aissami was appointed as vice president of Venezuela. So the government itself is at war with us. Soon thereafter, the United States Department of Treasury designated al-Aissami as a specially designated narcotics trafficker under the Foreign Narcotics Kingpin Designation Act. And el-Aissami is currently a United States fugitive, facing charges rising from his violations of the United States sanctions triggered by his Department of Treasury designation. Like Aissami, Maduro claims to act as Venezuela's president and asserts control over the security forces and other authorities in Venezuela, also maintains close ties to regime-sponsored narco-terrorists. Maduro leads the regime-sponsored enterprise Cartel de los Soles, which coordinates with and relies on TDA and other organizations to carry out its objective of using illegal narcotics as a weapon to flood the U.S. In 2020, Maduro and other regime members were charged with narco-terrorism and other crimes in connection with this plot against America. So we're basically at war with the Venezuelan government itself, and they're using this tactic of invading our country, and we have a right to remove anyone who's invading. And part of their invasion is they're bringing in other people who may not even be Venezuelan. Over the years, Venezuelan national and local authorities have ceded ever greater control over their territories to transnational criminal organizations. So the whole government is being swallowed up by these crooks. The result is a hybrid criminal state that is perpetrating an invasion of and predatory incursion into the United States, and which poses substantial danger to the United States. Indeed, in December 2024, Interpol Washington confirmed Tren de Aragua has emerged as a significant threat to the United States as it infiltrated migration flows from Venezuela. Evidence irrefutably demonstrates that TDA has invaded the U.S. and continues to attempt to invade, and threaten to invade the country, perpetrated irregular warfare within the country, and used drug trafficking as a weapon against us. Based on those activities, in consultation with the Attorney General and the Secretary of Treasury, Secretary of State designated TDA as a foreign terrorist organization. As President of the United States and Commander-in-Chief, it's my solemn duty to protect the American people from the devastating effects of this invasion. Now, therefore, I, President of the United States, by authority vested in me by constitutional laws here of America, including the Alien Enemies Act 50 U.S.C. 21, hereby proclaim and direct as follows. See, that's 1918, 5021. I find declare that TDA is perpetrating, attempting, and threatening an invasion or predatory incursion against the territory of the United States. They're undertaking hostile actions. They're a menace, conducting irregular warfare against the territory of the United States, both directly and the direction clandestine of, and at the direction clandestine and otherwise, of the Maduro regime in Venezuela. I make these findings using the full extent of my authority to conduct the nation's foreign affairs, the Constitution. So making this a formal proclamation. Based on these findings, by the authority vested in me by the Constitution and laws of the United States, America, including 50 U.S.C. 21, I proclaim that Venezuelan citizens 14 years of age or older who are members of TDA within the United States and are not actually naturalized or lawful permanent residents. So if they're naturalized or lawful permanent residents, meaning they have a green card, are liable to be apprehended, restrained, secured, and removed as alien enemies. I further find and declare that such members of TDA are, by virtue of their membership in the organization, chargeable with actual hostility and therefore ineligible for benefits under 50 U.S.C. 2022. I further find and declare that all such members of TDA are a danger to the public. So he's directing the AG within 60 days to put and publish a letter under her signature declaring the policy described in Section 1 of this proclamation. How are you going to carry this out? Direct that all alien enemies described in Section 1 are subject to immediate apprehension, detention, and removal, and further that they shall not be permitted residence in the United States. Pursuant to the Alien Enemies Act, the AG and Secretary of Homeland Security shall, consistent with applicable law, go round them all up and get them the hell out of here. They will collaborate with law enforcement officials to go use all lawful means to apprehend, restrain, secure, and remove alien enemies. Pursuant to my authority under 50 U.S.C. 21, direct the conduct to be observed on the part of the United States toward the alien enemies subject to this proclamation. The manner and degree of the restraint in which the aliens' enemies shall be subject, and in what cases to provide the removal of such aliens and to establish any other regulations which are found necessary in the premises and for the public safety. Hereby direct the AG and the Secretary of Homeland to execute all the regulations hereinafter contained regarding the alien enemies described in Section 1. And that she should go round them up, remove them. Anyone who qualifies as under that designation. Further adding that with respect to that no alien enemy described in that section shall enter, attempt to enter, or be found within any territory subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. And any such alien enemy who enters, attempts to enter, or is found within such territory shall be immediately apprehended and detained until removed from the United States. And if they're apprehended pursuant to proclamation, shall be subject to detention until removed. So we're keeping them in jail till we can get rid of them. Alien enemies shall be subject to removal. To any such locations may be directed by the officers responsible for the execution of these regulations. So go send them wherever the hell you want to. You don't have to make sure you get them home and tuck them into their own beds. All property in the possession of or traceable to an alien enemy which is used, intended to be used, or is commonly used to perpetrate the hostile activity, along with evidence of such hostile activity and regular warfare, shall be subject to seizure and forfeiture. So whatever they're carrying on them, whatever cars, cool cars they're driving, take them. AG is further granted authority pursuant to the Alien Enemies Act in 3 U.S.C. 301 to issue any guidance necessary to effectuate the prompt apprehension and to make sure that this thorn in our side is quickly removed. This applies on land and on sea. Get rid of them now, get them out of here, we're done. And you know who will be taking you home tonight. All right, there we go. Oh, I missed the joke. Aliens. Oh, did I? Alien invasion. Oh, okay. Oh, okay. Joe, if you look up the 1948 Supreme Court case involving the Invading Aliens Act, also the statute says the judiciary has no power once declared. I don't think this judge is long for this decision to last. I think he's in very, very thin ice. Patty, my case in point. Docs need to be gone through to protect whoever needs protecting. I would much rather see indictments than have all the disturbing docs released. We will see it in court cases. Oh, I hope so. Look forward to that. Is Israel's involvement in the national threat to releasing the Epstein files? I sent you a link in X. I don't see how, but it's always... A lot of people on X love saying it's the juice. So it's not hard to find that stuff. Not hard to find at all. Not hard to find at all. It's not tricky. You don't need to work you don't need to look very hard. Good old one. Hit me with 20. In Rumble. Joe found through Nick would stay because I like your take so much more. Well, that's very kind of you. Thank you, brother. I really appreciate that. Spud says Trump is going to turn us all into newts. That's what's happening during constitutional crisis, clearly. No question. New Zealand says Leprechaun, I think it's a joke. Leprechaun, there was an old man at Madras whose balls were made of fine brass. There was an old man at Madras whose balls were made of fine brass. So in stormy weather, they both clanged together and sparks flew out of his... Happy St. Patrick's Day. Happy St. Patrick's Day to each and every one of you. Joe, I asked Brock, what percentage of AOC's district actually votes? Percentage voting for AOC, 110,000 out of 540,000. VAP is about 20.4% of eligible voters. Well, we'll see. We'll see. We'll see. I think she's difficult to get rid of. Oh, and Spuds also says, Joe, they'll force Chuckles out. He will either resign or get Clintonized later this year, and Hochul will appoint Sandy AOC Cortez to serve out his term. Maybe. I don't know. What happened here? I did open it for you, Viola. I don't know what happened with all the cool old diggers. You have to make digging cool again. You have to do that. It's my duty and privilege to remind you all to please make sure that you, in case you haven't checked recently, like, share, subscribe, drop a comment, all that other good stuff here. Unfortunately, I don't think we reached our goal tonight. So I apologize for that. But maybe we'll do something on locals, because I have a lot to tell you all about Purim and about my wife's surprise party and all that good stuff. So maybe I'll do a locals. You'll probably do a locals. That's at goodlogic.locals.com. Goodlogic.locals.com. I still have more work to do. So, wait, did I just miss something new that just popped in? I think I might have just missed something that came in last second. Next target of Doge is U.S. Institute of Peace, a very odd institution funded and crafted by claiming nonprofit independence. I'm not even familiar with that one. All right. I'll try and keep my eyes open for that. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Remember, Lab Meat is for they, them. Plane coming down like really fast because I'm suddenly feeling tired and realizing I haven't eaten any food all day today. So, yeah. And one thing I can guarantee you is I'm not going to be eating lab meat. That's for they, them. And I certainly, like you, will not ever, ever, ever eat the bugs. Don't do it. Don't do it. Thank you all for joining me. I will see you tomorrow. Until then, good night and Godspeed.